Before passports existed, movement was still controlled. This video explores how and why. This video examines how human movement was regulated before the invention of modern passports, drawing on historical records and migration studies. It explores early systems of control, including letters of passage, imperial permits, and informal systems of recognition. Referencing the International Organization for Migration and Historical Scholarship, it situates pre-modern mobility within systems of power, empire, and early state formation. It was no passport, and yet you could not simply move. We often imagine a past where borders were open, where movement was free, unregulated, almost natural. But this is not history. It is a myth. Long before passports, movement was controlled through systems less visible, but no less powerful. If the passport is modern, control is not. What if borders existed long before we learned how to see them? Before standardized passports, states and empires relied on fragmented systems to regulate movement. These included letters of self-conduct, letters of safe conduct, internal passes, and permissions granted by authorities. For example, when my children's grandfather's great grandfather left Germany, we have a letter allowing him to leave the country from the royal municipality of where he was born in central Germany. According to historical migration analysis referenced by the International Organization for Migration in its World Migration Report, early movement control systems were tied to labor, taxation, and military obligation. Movement was not a right. It was a condition which was either granted or denied. These systems were inconsistent, localized, and often dependent upon social status. Who you were determined how you moved. If movement depends on status, is it ever truly free? In medieval Europe, letters of passage were issued to travelers, merchants, and diplomats. These documents identified the bearer and requested safe transit across territories. But they were not universal. They were privileges. In many regions, peasants were bound to land through feudal systems. Movement without permission could be treated as a violation. Elsewhere, empires such as the Ottoman Empire and Qing dynasty implemented internal travel controls requiring documentation for movement between regions. According to the International Organization for Migration World Migration Report, such systems were designed to maintain order, collect taxes, and prevent unrest. Movement was always political. As empires expanded, so did the need to regulate populations. Colonial systems introduced new forms of movement control, particularly over enslaved and indentured populations. Movement was not restricted. Movement was forced. The transatlantic slave trade represents one of the most extreme forms of controlled movement in history. According to historical research referenced by global migration studies, millions were transported across continents without agency, documentation, or recognition. This was not migration, it was extraction, and it shaped the systems that followed. How do systems built on forced movement shape how we voluntarily move today? The modern passport did not emerge from a vacuum. It evolved from these earlier systems of control. According to the League of Nations Passport Conference in 1920, standardization of passports became necessary after World War I, when states sought to regulate movement more systematically. War created the need for identification. Security created this justification. What had been fragmented became formalized. The passport did not invent control. The passport standardized control. It is often said that modern passports created order where there was chaos, that they enabled safer, more reliable movement across borders. There is truth in this. Standardization can reduce uncertainty. But the question remains, order for whom? Because the same systems that facilitate movement for some restrict it for others. Historically, access to movement has always been uneven, and modern systems have not erased that inequality, have not erased that inequality. They have encoded it. If passports made movement clearer, they also made exclusion more precise. Before passports, there were permissions. Before borders, there were boundaries, not always drawn on maps, but enforced in practice. Movement has never been free. It has always been negotiated, controlled, remembered differently depending on who was moving and who was watching. The passport did not begin the story. It only made the story visible. And what we now call freedom of movement has always been something else beneath the surface. Movement has always been regulated, even before passports. Modern systems did not create control. They formalized and standardized existing practices rooted in power and inequality. Take a moment to reflect on that. If movement has always been controlled, who does freedom of movement matter to? And what does freedom of movement really mean? Thank you.